Hello everyone! In any society, there are laws that put people into two groups. Those who strive to abide by these laws, and those who fundamentally reject them. However, even when we take a closer look at undeniable criminals, we discover a wide range of personalities among them. They may clash with one another, and even judge each other according to their own codes that govern the world of violence and crime. This story pits two criminals against each other, presenting them with life and death dilemmas.
왼쪽 가슴을 찔렀는데 분명히 칼자국이 남아 있을 겁니다.
This is a story based on true events. A white sedan cruises casually through the nighttime streets of Seoul, bathed in the glow of neon signs from all directions. These bustling streets are a hub of vice, with patrons of massage parlors and bars hopping into cabs. The sedan keeps moving, closely following a black car. As the two cars drive further away from the city center, they eventually find themselves beneath a desolate bridge. The pursuer hits the gas, resulting in a collision. The driver steps out of his car, rubbing his sore neck. The guy responsible for the accident asks how he's feeling, prompting the man to begin snapping photos for his insurance claim.
사진이 잘 찍혀요? 네? 찍을 필요는 없을 텐데.
Without warning, the man swiftly lunges at his target, pulling him into the rear seat of a black car. He ruthlessly kills him with a knife before making a hasty escape. In the morning, the car with the dead body is discovered. Two police officers are tuning into the radio broadcast detailing yet another gruesome murder. These crimes have been occurring since last year, and people are growing impatient, expecting to see results from the police force. Detective Tasok is also eager to detain the man responsible for these heinous acts, as it could land him a promotion. However, right now their flashing police lights aren't helping them escape a traffic jam in the city, and they're sweltering in the heat. Suddenly, Tasok spots a group of thugs who are causing a commotion at an illegal casino. In order to save time, the detective gets out of his vehicle and heads towards the scene. The casino security guard attempts to bribe Tasok to keep the police out of their affairs, but Detective Tasok, known for his integrity, pushes the thugs down the stairs and enters the basement filled with slot machines. There, he discovers the cash register and apprehends the guy responsible for the illegal activities, subsequently placing him under arrest. The incident is promptly reported to the establishment's owner and the notorious crime boss, Dong-soo. At this time, he's vigorously honing his boxing skills on a heavy punching bag. As the bag drops, it reveals a battered man inside. Crossing paths with Dong-soo was certainly a bad idea. The crime boss calls the police chief to voice his annoyance about the detective who doesn't respect their agreement.
그 또라이 새끼 또 왔습니다.
뭐?
아니 그 새끼 그 살인 사건 현장 보냈는데 왜?
Dong-soo hops into his car, accompanied by a group of security guards, and heads over to the scene. While on the way, the police chief reminds him not to exchange currency in the casino. However, the crime boss doesn't care for these minor details. He's currently focused on expanding his operations, not dealing with the old ones. This is why he pays the corrupt chief, who agrees to rein in Tasok. But the stubborn detective doesn't have much respect for his superior, and casually hangs up on him. Instead, he coerces the arrested guy into giving him a ride on his moped to the scene of last night's murder. Tasok makes sure to cuff the guy to the back of the moped to prevent any escape attempts. Meanwhile, his partner arrives after navigating through traffic and shoos away nosy reporters. As the casino worker turns the moped around and takes off, Tasok examines the dead body. The gruesome sight causes him to wince, and he notices the rear bumper, prompting him to snap a photo of the damage. It's clear that someone rear-ended the car, and Tasok tells his friend So-jin, the forensic scientist, about this. In the meantime, Dong-soo has a meeting with his business partner, Song-do. It turns out that one of Song-do's thugs was the guy Dong-soo beat up earlier in the punching bag. Song-do follows his boss's orders, but he's starting to feel a bit too confident and wants more. Dong-soo clearly isn't pleased with Song-do's attitude, but he's handling the situation delicately. A bodyguard named Woo-sung begins to lose his temper with Song-do, and another guard tries to quiet him down. Both bosses reprimand Dong-soo's subordinate for interrupting their conversation. Then Dong-soo proceeds to yank two teeth right out of Song-do's bodyguard's mouth with his bare hands. This action curbs Song-do's ambitions as he comes to understand that it's wiser to lay low. At the police station, the officers are discussing the murder case. It appears that there was no personal motive behind the crime. Instead, the perpetrator seems to have killed the man for no apparent reason. However, since the victim's wallet is missing, the chief is considering this a robbery. Tasok strongly disagrees and believes that this murder is linked to two others that happened in the same neighborhood within a few weeks. In all three cases, fingerprints were conspicuously absent, and the killer used the same weapon. It's becoming increasingly likely that there's a serial killer on the loose. Some of the older officers try to rein Tae-suk in.
네가 뭔데 임마 남에 관할 사건들을 들쑤시고 다녀.
아니 살인범한테 관할이 어디 있습니까?
The police chief keeps giving Tae-suk a hard time because he ignored his orders and broke into the casino. Tae-suk tries to justify himself, saying he's simply doing his job. The chief drops a hint about a potential promotion, but the detective isn't interested in that. He heads off to track down the killer. Meanwhile, Dong-soo sends his bodyguard away and gets behind the wheel of his car. He's in the mood to drive alone in the rain while chatting with some important partners on the phone. Out of the blue, another vehicle rear-ends his car. A man in a black raincoat steps out of a white sedan, offering a polite apology for causing the accident. Dong-soo calmly assesses the situation, observing the stranger's face. Ultimately, the crime boss decides not to waste his energy on a confrontation and allows the offender to drive away. The moment Dong-soo turns his back, the assailant thrusts a knife into his back. Dong-soo isn't new to physical violence and fights back. He knocks the attacker to the ground and lands punches despite his injuries. Dong-soo grabs the knife by its sharp edge and wrests it from the bewildered assailant's grip. The attacker manages to evade the first strike, but when Dong-soo thrusts the knife into the assailant's chest during the second try, it forces him to back off and scramble into a nearby car. He hits the gas and knocks down Dong-soo before speeding off into the night. The crime boss lies unconscious on the road, but he is discovered in time and rushed to the hospital. Doctors immediately get him on the operating table to stop the bleeding. Woo-sung and the rest of the gang waste no time plotting their revenge. They're convinced that Song-do is behind the attack and decide to raid his hideout. Meanwhile, the killer cleans the knife of its bloodstains in his car and uses a stapler to patch up the wound on his chest. He hears a dog barking nearby and decides to go hunting once more, settling for an animal as his new target. But suddenly a security guard emerges from the rows of animal cages at the shelter. The man points a flashlight at the stranger who's holding a knife. It's the last thing the guard will ever see. A few days later, Dong-soo wakes up and recounts the events of that night to Woo-sung. The attacker didn't appear to be affiliated with any gang or harbor a personal grudge against him. Dong-soo manages to recollect the car and part of the license plate number, and then orders Woo-sung to find that white sedan. Suddenly, Tae-suk shows up at their door, already aware of what happened.
아유 그나저나 참 쪽팔리시겠어요. 그래도 명색이 조폭 두목이신데.
The detective is eager to get a statement from the crime boss regarding the killer, but Dong-soo wants to find the attacker before anyone else. The crime boss casually dismisses the incident as a mere stumble and fall. Tae-suk appreciates the boss's attempt at humor, but leaves without getting any information. Later on, while walking through the parking lot, Tae-suk spots the crime boss's car, noticing the familiar bumper damage with traces of white paint. The detective pays a visit to the police chief, once again trying to convince him of the existence of a serial killer. He insists that only a maniac would dare target a crime boss, and that Dong-soo, who survived the attack, could be a crucial witness. However, the boss dismisses Tae-suk once more, insisting on handling the case himself. This infuriates the detective, who accuses his superior of covering for the mobsters. For this, Tae-suk gets slapped. The man remains persistent, claiming that if the thugs find the killer before the police do, they will likely kill him, leaving several unsolved cases. He stresses the urgency of questioning Dong-soo, who saw the maniac's face. In response, the boss tells him to get out of his office. Meanwhile, Song-do comes to his boss to ask for compensation for an unfair raid. After the assassination attempt, the balance of power has shifted, and now Song-do plans to seize control over the part of the illegal casino business. In the evening, the serial killer stops at a gas station to get coffee from a vending machine. He hears a truck driver arguing loudly with his wife on the phone. The father has completely forgotten about his kid's birthday, unwittingly marking himself as the killer's next target.
하지 말아야지. 애가 무슨 죄가 있어.
The killer gets into the victim's pickup truck, discovering a birthday cake on the seat. As he drives away, he eats the gift with his hands. Out of the blue, a man in the back seat wakes up and asks what's going on. The murderer kills him as well, but his blood-stained knife falls out of the window and lands on the roadside. An artist comes to Dong-soo's ward to create a highly accurate sketch of the attacker. The boss tells Woo-sung to find the man before the police do. Tae-suk pays another visit to Dong-soo's casino to put some pressure on him. He offers to turn a blind eye to Dong-soo's gambling operation in exchange for information about the serial killer. Dong-soo doesn't feel like sharing anything, but then the detective tells him what he knows about the string of murders. These murders were indiscriminate, causing harm to innocent people. Dong-soo is concerned by this revelation, but keeps his cards close to his chest. Soon, Dong-soo's business takes a hit as his partners don't want to deal with him, and the serial killer continues to roam the streets of Seoul freely. The abandoned white sedan, linked to the killer, is found near the gas station where the truck driver was murdered. Also, the killer's knife is discovered 3 kilometers away. Dong-soo recognizes the weapon and asks to keep it in a safe place. He contacts Tasok, informing him of the gas station murder in the white sedan, but not telling him about the knife. The two meet, and the crime boss says he's willing to work together. Dong-soo is determined to capture the killer and restore his reputation, the most valuable currency in the criminal underworld. He vows to ensure the killer meets his demise. Tasok chuckles at the irony of a criminal telling his plans to eliminate another criminal to a cop.
아니지. 나쁜 놈 둘이 더 나쁜 놈 하나를 잡는 거지.
Dong-soo understands that the detective's priority is putting an end to the murders. With that in mind, he tosses him the keys to the white sedan, and they agree to share information, but race to be the first one to get to the killer. Tasok has a shot at bringing the murderer to justice and closing the cases. However, if Dong-soo finds the killer first, the police won't be involved. The detective reluctantly agrees to these terms and receives a sketch of the maniac. Dong-soo gives the cop his personal contact number and then plays an audio recording of their conversation. This recording has the power to destroy both their reputations, putting them on equal footing. Tasok immediately smashes the recorder to bits. Dong-soo, however, had a backup plan. He reveals a recording from a video camera. Tasok's frustration gets the best of him, and he reaches for a gun, threatening to deal with Dong-soo as soon as they've caught the killer. Afterward, the detective shares the secret information with the 2 colleagues he trusts the most. The suspect is about 35 years old. He goes out hunting only at night and can either track down particular victims or attack random people. The police will have to work with the thugs, and they can't say a word to the chief of police. Of course, both Dong-soo and Tae-suk intend to cross each other once they've taken everything they can out of this unlikely partnership. While Tae-suk investigates the white sedan and other evidence, Dong-soo pulls another trick. He orders to kill the arrogant Song-do with the knife that belonged to the killer. This way, he hopes to clear himself of suspicion. The weapon is left at the crime scene. Tae-suk runs into his colleague So-jim while she's out jogging. He leaps on her from the bushes, and she instinctively throws him to the ground. Later, the detective asks her for a favor regarding some evidence in the lab. To their surprise, they discovered that they contain traces of the victim's DNA from unsolved murders. Unfortunately, there are no traces left by the killer himself. Additionally, they find the DNA of 2 victims on the knife stuck in Song-do. Thus, the serial killer theory is confirmed officially. Tae-suk realizes that the latest murder doesn't fit the pattern and heads to Dong-soo's place to confront him, resulting in a physical altercation where the heavy crime boss gains the upper hand. Tae-suk ends up battered on the floor as the mobster talks to the police chief.
아, 이 또라이 새끼 또 왔네. 이제 아주 집으로 왔어.
Dong-soo calmly confesses to the murder of Song-do. The detective becomes furious that he had placed trust in the criminal, but Dong-soo chuckles at the detective's naivety. Their agreement still holds. In response to a string of unsolved murders, the police chief faces criticism from higher-ups. They decide to form a special team to detain the serial killer. Tae-suk and his colleagues aren't pleased with this and clash with the newcomers who aim to impose their own set of rules. The serial killer is now making headlines. The man himself is sitting in a cafeteria enjoying his newfound fame. Upon hearing about Song-do's murder, he unintentionally blurts out that he had nothing to do with that. The guy nearby overhears this and locks eyes with the killer. As they both get up to leave, the maniac places his hand on the scared witness's shoulder. Dong-soo attends Song-do's funeral. The serial killer sneaks in and watches the crime boss from afar. He then approaches Song-do's bodyguard, slips him a note, and quickly escapes. The note reveals that Song-do was fatally stabbed with the killer's knife, but it wasn't the killer who did it. Suspicion falls on Dong-soo. Later that night, another gruesome murder occurs. The serial killer places the victim's lifeless body in the trunk of his car and drives away. Just then, the phone rings and the killer answers, only to find the victim's wife on the other end. Tae-suk and Dong-soo, meanwhile, examine the white sedan together and spot a bloodstain on the steering wheel upholstery. Suddenly, a group of men approaches them. These men are seeking revenge following the hint from the serial killer. The thugs attempt to attack them with knives and wrenches, but Tae-suk and Dong-soo defend themselves against the attackers. The white sedan and the slot machine stored in the warehouse get badly damaged. Dong-soo saves Tae-suk's life, and the detective returns the favor. The cop grapples with the fact that he killed one of the attackers in the heat of battle. Dong-soo tells him to leave. He buries the bodies at a construction site using a backhoe. The next day, Tae-suk gets a word about a wealthy businessman who had gone missing. The kidnapper demands a ransom for his safe return. Desperate, the businessman's wife reaches out to the kidnapper over the phone. Their conversation is recorded by the police. The man on the other end names the amount and sets up a meeting at a cafe. Tasok discreetly watches the exchange of a bag full of money and spots a mysterious figure on the rooftop. The police chase the man in the black cap, but he shows impressive agility, eluding the 3 officers through the narrow streets. Later, they interrogate the woman who had been asked by the kidnapper to take the bag for him. She runs a small diner, and a stranger asked her for help. She remembers him drinking a bottle of Korean liquor, soju. Realizing that the bottle might contain valuable fingerprints, Tae-suk and his colleagues head to the glass recycling facility to find it. Sojin meticulously analyzes bottle after bottle until she stumbles upon a print matching the one discovered on the steering wheel upholstery of the white sedan. Tae-suk gets the suspect's file and finds the address of the apartment he rented. When he questions the landlady, she tells him that the man hasn't been around for 3 months, though he always paid rent on time and caused no trouble. Tae-suk enters the apartment and sees a disturbing scene. Neglected fish tanks covered in algae and decay. On the desk, he stumbles upon books and diaries that hint at the occupant's unsettling fascination with death, murder, and human anatomy. Among this eerie collection, Tasok finds photos of a man who bears a striking resemblance to the sketch of the maniac responsible for the businessman's kidnapping and extortion. Finally, the police have the name, the face, and a voice recording of their suspect. In the meantime, Dong-soo is holding meetings to expand his business. However, his potential partners are hesitant to work with him due to the rumors surrounding Song-do's murder. When someone makes an inappropriate joke, Dong-soo swiftly silences him with a series of slaps. The party is interrupted by Tae-suk's phone call, as he asks Dong-soo to listen to the killer's voice and tell him if he recognizes it. Any lingering doubts vanish. It's time to start the hunt. Gangsters and law enforcement meet at their HQ, sharing photos and tracing the killer's hideout through his cell phone records. Naturally, tension fills the room, leading to a few fights. Tae-suk steps in to break down the fight, and in the heat of the moment, he lands a punch on his colleague.
죽이 되든 밥이 되든 그냥 가자. 어? 그냥 가자!
Right now, they're all in this together. A whole army of thugs is sent out to find the killer. They must be stealthy to avoid spooking the murderer. Squads of 5 people sweep all the motels and apartments for rent in the vicinity. Then they thoroughly search the markets, stores, casinos, and bars. Days go by, but the hunt doesn't lead them anywhere. The killer seems to have disappeared without a trace. The partners decide to take a break. Dong-soo stands outside, waiting for Tae-suk. Beside him, a teenage girl, drenched in the rain, standing waiting for the bus. Dong-soo kindly hands over his umbrella to her. When Tae-suk shows up, he scolds the girl for accepting something from a stranger.
야, 이씨 깡패야!
아저씨가 더 깡패 같으신데요?
뭐? 웃지 마라, 이씨.
The teenage girl gets on a bus and the men go to a restaurant for dinner. There, the thugs and the cops have a drink and bury the hatchet. A guy who auditioned for a Korean boy band starts singing and dancing. Suddenly, the news reports the murder of a minor. Footage of the crime scene appears on the screen. Dong-soo's umbrella is lying on the ground next to the corpse of a schoolgirl. The boss tells everyone to move out immediately to find the killer. This time, the owner of a cheap motel recognizes the man in the photo. The room is empty. The tenant left not so long ago. Tae-suk's partner stays inside, while Usong keeps watching the car. Everyone stays hidden, hoping to spot the maniac on the streets. Tae-suk is the first to see the suspicious car. It's driven by the man in the photo. They set up an ambush, but the killer senses trouble and quickly speeds away. Dong-soo goes out in hot pursuit, while Tae-suk rushes ahead to reach the killer first. But the thugs stay right on his tail. Despite being sandwiched in the middle, the maniac behind the wheel refuses to give up. Tae-suk veers off the road but quickly goes back on track. All 3 vehicles hurtling at high speed collide at an intersection. The killer gets out of the car first and heads for the back alley. Tae-suk, Dong-soo, and Usong pursue him. The trio splits up to block the escape routes. Sneaking up from behind, the killer fatally stabs the boss's bodyguard with a knife. Fueled by anger, Dong-soo charges forward, seeking vengeance. He bursts into a karaoke place, where he sees 2 girls singing with fear-stricken expressions. Dong-soo gestures towards the bathroom, quietly wondering if the killer might be hiding there. The girls confirm this with nods. Without hesitation, Dong-soo kicks the door down, sending it crashing onto the intruder. He proceeds to pummel the killer until he passes out, then drags him outside. Meanwhile, Tae-suk sees Usong's lifeless body and calls Dong-soo.
야, 너 지금 어디야? 이제 이 새끼 내 거다.
어디냐고, 이 새끼야!
The detective immediately calls his colleagues and orders them to find Dong-soo. Surveillance cameras capture the crime boss taking the killer to a warehouse, where he proceeds to beat him. the maniac finds the situation rather amusing, seeing little difference between himself and Dong-soo. Both men seem to be toying with the lives of others in their own ways. As if unwittingly proving his point, Dong-soo threatens to cut the killer to pieces, clearly relishing the moment. Just as Dong-soo brings the machete down towards the maniac's head, Tae-suk's car races into the building. The detective knocks down the crime boss and gets out of the car.
미안하다 이 새끼야. 그래도 내가 경찰 아니냐.
He arrests the serial killer and proceeds to read him his rights. Even someone as sinister as this man deserves an attorney and a just trial. Of course, Tasok uses the chance to give a killer a couple of well-deserved punches, leaving Dong-soo unconscious. He takes the killer to the police station. His fellow officers are taken aback by the sight of the two battered men. While the accused awaits trial in the hospital, Tasok deals with the illegal gambling dens. On the news, Dong-soo witnesses his criminal empire fall apart. The worst thing is the police don't have enough evidence needed for the death penalty. The serial killer taunts the cops, and Tae-suk vents his frustration on him. Clearly, this man has given a lot of thought to life and has his own interpretation of what's right and wrong.
그거야말로 살인입니다. 선한 얼굴을 하고 악행을 저지르는 인간들이야말로 진짜 악마입니다.
The knife didn't have the killer's fingerprints on it, so there's no way to tie him to the murders. This is a significant advantage for the defense attorneys. However, the prosecution has a powerful ace up its sleeve. In a desperate move, Tae-suk approached Dong-soo before the trial and endured a brutal beating before he managed to persuade Dong-soo to testify. The ultimate argument is the tape recording Tae-suk made after Song-do's murder. He learned this trick from Dong-soo and managed to record his confession during their last altercation. Dong-soo has nothing to lose, but he's hesitant to show up in court. This is an unforgiving thing for a crime boss. Plus, he's a wanted man. The only thing that might sway him is a favor from the detective. Tae-suk promises to arrange for Dong-soo to end up in the same prison as the serial killer. The crime boss takes the stand and insists that the defendant attempted to murder him. The attorneys tried to discredit Dong-soo's testimony, arguing it's unreliable and tarnishing the court's reputation.
어이 변호사. 주님. 당신 가족이 그렇게 개죽음을 당해도 지금이랑 똑같이 얘기할 수 있어?
As proof, Dong-soo bares his chest, revealing the knife scars. He adds that there must be a wound on the killer's chest, and he's right. The last piece of proof is a handwritten confession note by the killer, explicitly admitting that his knife was used on Sung-do. Dong-soo had cunningly torn away the portion of the note which hinted at his involvement. Later, the crime boss is taken out of the courtroom in handcuffs, while the serial killer receives a death sentence. Tae-suk rightfully earns the reward for cracking the case, and Dong-soo finds himself behind bars. As he enters the prison, fellow inmates pay their respects with a bow. A triumphant grin crosses Dong-soo's face as he locks eyes with the maniac. It's clear that he will be the one delivering his sentence. According to the creators of the film, the script written by director Lee Won-tae is heavily inspired by real-life events. While there haven't been any official confirmations, the movie's plot closely mirrors a series of events in the early 21st century. There have been gruesome murders over the course of a year until Yoo Young-chol, also known as the Raincoat Killer, was apprehended in July 2004. The serial killer primarily targeted elderly women and masseuses, though not exclusively. During police interrogation, he confessed to killing 19 people within a single year. Subsequently, the count increased to 26. In the end, he was found guilty of committing 20 of those killings, and he received the death penalty in June 2005. As always, check out the movie name in the description below. In the meantime, tell us in the comments, are you in favor of or against the death penalty? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button to get even more cool recaps.